Above 8,000 meters, the human body begins to deteriorate. Oxygen levels drop to roughly 33% of those at sea level. Cognitive decline accelerates. Muscles weaken. Judgment falters. Survival becomes a matter of efficiency and time. Since 1953, more than 6,000 climbers have reached the summit of Mount Everest. Over 330 have died attempting it. Extreme altitude mountaineering remains one of the most dangerous pursuits on Earth. Yet participation continues to grow. Why? The death zone begins at 8,000 meters. Here, the partial pressure of oxygen falls to just 30% of what the body receives at sea level. Blood oxygen saturation drops below 80%. Within hours, executive function starts to erode. Memory slips. Judgment slows. Even the most basic decisions require immense effort. An altitude medicine expert explains, "At this elevation, the human body cannot acclimatize. Hypoxia sets in. Muscles waste. The heart strains to pump what little oxygen remains. Hallucinations are common. Simple mistakes like misclipping a rope or missing a step can be fatal. Survival depends on speed and precision. Every minute above the threshold is a minute closer to irreversible damage. Pulmonary and cerebral edema can develop in less than 12 hours. Hypothermia and frostbite follow quickly in temperatures that plunge below minus 30 degrees Celsius. Modern climbers carry pulse oximeters and bottled oxygen, but technology only buys time. The body continues to break down. No one is immune, not veteran guides, not elite athletes, not Sherpas who cross these heights dozens of times each season. Over 330 climbers have died on Everest alone. Most perished above 8,000 meters, often within sight of the summit. The mountain does not care about ambition or preparation. There is no negotiation, only consequence. On June 3, 1950, two French climbers, Maurice Herzog and Louis Lachenal, stood atop Annapurna. They were the first humans to reach the summit of an 8,000-meter peak. No supplemental oxygen, no rescue helicopters, just wool, canvas, and the will to keep moving. Both men paid in flesh. Herzog lost all his fingers and toes to frostbite. Lachenal lost every toe. Their expedition diaries recount nights spent in agony, hands and feet blackening in the cold, as teammates argued over whether to push for the summit at all. The price was clear, but so was the motive: national honor. France needed a victory after the Second World War. Annapurna became a symbol. Its story sold in millions of copies of Herzog's memoir. 3 years later, on May 29, 1953, a British team led by John Hunt put Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay on the summit of Everest. This time, the operation was bigger, with hundreds of porters, tons of supplies, and a carefully staged assault. The British used bottled oxygen, fixed ropes, and a strict camp system. Sherpas carried loads up and down the mountain, often with little recognition. Fewer than 20 people had ever been above 8,000 meters by 1953. The risk was accepted as part of exploration. Suffering and loss were woven into the narrative. These climbs were national projects, run like military campaigns, and framed as proof of a country's strength. Risk wasn't a flaw, it was the point. By the early 1990s, Everest was no longer reserved for elite teams or national glory. Commercial outfitters promised ordinary clients a shot at the world's highest summit for a price. A guided ascent cost around $65,000, covering permits, logistics, Sherpa support, and a place in the growing line of hopefuls. The summit became a commodity, sold to anyone with the means and minimal experience. On May 10, 1996, that bargain collapsed. 8 climbers died in a single storm. Most were guided clients, delayed by traffic jams and slow decision-making. The world watched as radio calls and headlines revealed the new Everest, crowded, commercial, and deadly. John Krakauer's book Into Thin Air captured the chaos and the cost. Yet demand soared. More outfitters arrived. The client pool grew. By spring 2019, Nepal issued 381 permits for the south side alone. More than 800 people reached the summit that season. Photos showed a queue of climbers stretching for hours along the summit ridge, trapped in the death zone, oxygen dwindling with every minute. 11 people died, some from exhaustion, some from exposure, some simply from waiting too long in line. A client later recalled watching the sunrise from the ridge, unable to move forward or back, surrounded by bodies and ambition. The mountain had become a marketplace. Crowds now posed as much danger as the cold or the wind. Risk, once a test of skill or courage, was now a consequence of commerce. Before sunrise on April 18, 2014, a slab of ice broke loose above the Khumbu icefall. 16 Sherpa guides were swept away while fixing ropes and ladders for the season's first wave of climbers. They were laying the groundwork for hundreds who would follow, preparing a route through a maze of unstable seracs and crevasses. Every spring, Sherpa teams cross the icefall dozens of times, carrying tents, fuel, oxygen, and food. The work is relentless and dangerous. A Sherpa can earn $3,000 to $5,000 for a season, nearly 7 times Nepal's average annual wage. But the risk is not shared equally. Western clients step onto the mountain after the route is secure. Sherpa guides absorb the danger first. After the avalanche, the government offered each family $400 for funeral costs. The Sherpa community demanded more, at least $10,000 in compensation, $20,000 in insurance, and support for children left behind. Negotiations raised the payout to $4,000, but for many families, the loss could not be measured in money. One Sherpa leader asked, "How much is a life worth?" The numbers never add up. Everest has seen more than 6,000 summits since 1953. K2, by contrast, claims 1 life for every 4 people who reach its top. On Everest, each foreign climber pays $11,000 for a permit, money that fuels the national budget and funds infrastructure in the Khumbu region. The 2019 season alone brought in over $4.5 million from permits. Yet the crowds keep growing. Nepal's Ministry of Tourism faces a dilemma: limit permits and lose revenue, or let demand dictate the numbers and risk more deaths in the death zone. A tourism official lays out the options. Stricter experience requirements could keep unprepared climbers off the mountain. Capping permits at 300 would thin the summit queues and cut time spent above 8,000 meters. Mandatory medical screenings could catch hidden risks before they become emergencies. Each measure, though, comes with a cost: lost income for the country, fewer jobs for guides and Sherpas, and the threat of black market climbs. The Composite Cost Index, a new model for weighing risk, shows that permit caps and wage floors can lower overall harm. But who decides what is acceptable risk, regulation, or personal choice? The debate is far from settled. Guides and outfitters face a hard calculation. Capping Everest permits at 300 would shrink summit day traffic, but cost Nepal nearly $1 million in lost revenue each season. For many in the Khumbu, climbing money is the backbone of schools, clinics, and village life. A veteran outfitter points to the risk. Fewer permits mean fewer jobs, less income, and a return to subsistence farming for some Sherpa families. Yet the alternative is clear on the glacier. Over the past 20 years, the Khumbu has lost more than half a square kilometer of ice. The route through the icefall shifts each spring, as warming temperatures carve new crevasses and expose unstable seracs. The safe weather window has narrowed, from about 15 days in the 1990s to barely 10 days now. Each lost day means more climbers crowded into the death zone, racing against storms. 3 futures stand before the mountain. First, stricter rules, fewer climbers, and a smaller but safer season. Second, business as usual, with growing queues and rising body counts. Third, a climate-driven retreat, where glacial collapse makes the route impassable and the climbing economy vanishes overnight. The mountain does not weigh these choices. People do. Each year, Everest issues more permits than ever, while glaciers melt and risks multiply. No rule, no guide, no legacy changes the mountain's terms. Above 8,000 meters, debate ends. There is no negotiation, only consequence.